right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining the Agile sessions on the most crucial topic in 2025 in project management and beyond. And today I am extremely excited to hear the presentation and to host Mario Alberto de la Cruz from Mexico on the AI-driven category management. Honestly speaking, I started this series back, I believe, in 2022, beginning of 2022 was my first session. And since that, I've been trying to differentiate the topics. And it's the first time in 2025 I found somebody talking about the exciting case study from procurement. And it's not just a case study from procurement, it's a case study on AI topic, AI-driven category management. So I won't keep you longer, guys. Passing the floor to you, Mario, and let's get it started. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Aina, for this opportunity in order to share this case, and also for all the people, welcome to this conversation. Okie dokie. As I was mentioning, we are going to talk about a case for the category management implementation that we have with in one company, and also how we use the AI in order to support the category management process. Okie dokie. Perfect. This is the agenda that we have for today. Just a brief introduction to who I am. Also, very basic concepts about AI and Gen AI, the concepts that we use for this implementation. Also, I know that maybe most of the people that is here in this session or is watching the recording, maybe is not related to procurement. So we are going to consider basic concepts of category strategy, also the typical AI challenges that we have, not only for AI implementation for procurement, but in general for any AI implementation. Also the category strategy and how we implement AI for category strategy from the business point of view and also for the technical point of view. And after that, how was the expected business outcomes that we generate for this implementation, compare the planned outcomes versus the actual outcomes that we have. And also the next steps. Once we have implemented AI for category strategy, what's next for this process? Okay, so thank you very much for this. And one thing that maybe we can consider here in business or here when we are working, especially in procurement, okay, yes, in God we trust, all others must bring data. And data is everything when we are analyzing all things in procurement and also on things on different aspects of the business, for sales, for marketing, for production, for manufacturing, etc. All should be related to data, because data is the main part of the or the main issue that we have considered, especially when we are implementing AI. Perfect. So just a brief introduction of myself. This is Mario. I'm working as a global digital transformation director in Grupo Bimbo, and also especially for this conversation, I have my own company that is Global Project Mentor. We are I dedicate as a consultant for AI implementations and also for project management. I have been project management coach, mentor, and instructor, and also I have different certifications of AI, especially for the Project Management Institute. Thank you very much. And let's discuss the general concepts for artificial intelligence. Okay, just to remember, I know that you have heard a lot of concepts about AI. Just to summarize, that AI is when we are creating a system capable of performing tasks that normally require human intelligence, okay? Maybe analyzing data, maybe generating some new information starting from a previous information, all the aspects that normally require human intelligence, we can consider as artificial intelligence. Okay, and this is important, guys, because usually the people say that we are going to be replaced by artificial intelligence, and that's not true, because the AI is not designed to replace human resources. It's designed to expand the capabilities of the human, taking the advantage that for systems that normally require human intelligence. So don't be afraid that your job is going to be taken by artificial intelligence. Don't worry about that. You must consider any AI implementation as an opportunity, not as a threat. Okay? So artificial intelligence is a very, very huge concept. One part of that huge concept is generative AI. And generative AI is a subpart of artificial intelligence that is capable of creating new data similar to the data on which was trained. Okay, this is similar to ChatGPT. This is similar to Gemini. This is similar to Microsoft Copilot. In order, when we introduce some data, we ask for this Gen AI to perform a task or to generate some data, and this system is giving us an output starting from a data. This is one part of the artificial intelligence. This is designed to generate or create new data similar to the starting data. Okay, just to let you know that on this implementation, we implementing generative AI to support the procurement process. So we have artificial intelligence. We have a subpart of artificial intelligence that it's called Gen AI, and now we are going to match with the category strategy and the procurement process. So we have talked about AI. Now I'm going to talk about business. Okay? And now business is procurement. Procurement is a world. It's a huge field for business. One part of the that we use in procurement, or one important part that we dedicate most of the time in procurement, is the category strategy. What's a category? Category is a segmentation of the spend that we have in a given organization. Maybe a category is for direct cost, maybe an ingredient cost, maybe the spend that we dedicate to the IT department, to the IT system, maybe for MRO, maybe for commodities, maybe for packaging. This is a category, okay, that we usually use to classify the spend that we have in a given organization. For a category, we need to establish a strategy, and that strategy will define how we are going to approach the procurement for that category, how we are going to buy the different items, how we are going to buy to the different suppliers, how many suppliers we are going to have for a given category, how we are going to spend our money in that category. On that definition, we will use a strategy in order to define how we are going to procure that category on organization. Why is it important to have a strategy for category? Because this strategy will allow us to have different benefits for the organization. We know, you know, we are procurement. As a procurement, we will be defined as the savings that we have for our company, for our organization. But beyond that, procurement can deliver more value than savings. We can deliver value as a business opportunity. For example, when we negotiate an item that is exclusive for my company, we are delivering value, and that value is delivered by procurement because we are negotiating with the different suppliers. Okay, that item is going to be sold exclusively to my company. Okay, This is one of the benefits that we usually deliver from procurement. Yes, savings, yes, cost avoidance, yes, benefits of working capital, but also we deliver more value. And in order to define what value we are going to deliver for my company, we need a strategy to deliver that value. This is the reason that it's important to have category strategy in order to deliver more value to our company. Okay, how we are going to create that strategy? This is usually the typical process in order to use the category strategy. Okay, this is not a masterclass for procurement, but just to let you know the different steps that we use in order to create a category strategy. The first one is we usually perform an internal analysis. Internal analysis about the spend, about how we are spending money for a different categories, in what organization, in one business unit, for what supplier. All the data that we have internally in our company, it's the internal analysis that we will use as an input for the category strategy. Also, if we analyze the internal information that we have, also we are going to analyze the external information. What's the information on the market? If we are buying, for example, I don't know, commodities, yeast, fats and oils, etc., how's the market? How's the market prices globally, internally in my local market? How the prices are moving across the different timelines. So we are going to start analyzing the internal information, the external information, in order to segment the different suppliers. This segmentation, guys, is very, very important because, yes, for a big companies, we are not having 10, 20 suppliers. We are having thousands of suppliers, and we are going to create that strategy for thousands of suppliers. The strategy will be different according to the spend that we have for different suppliers. This is important to have a segmentation and a risk profile for the different suppliers, especially working in a global headquarters, in a global companies. This is very, very important to have a supplier segmentation, because we are not going to analyze at the same way 20 suppliers that 2,000 suppliers, okay? After that segmentation, we are going to identify opportunities for the value lever in order to starting identify how we can create value for my company from the internal analysis, from the market analysis, and also for the supplier segmentation that we have performed at this moment, okay? We are going to evaluate the different options that we have in order to define the strategy. The strategy, that means that, okay, maybe I'm going to focus, I don't know, an example. For fats and oils, I'm going to focus in local markets, Mexico, Latam, USA, Canada, etc. Or maybe the decision will be, I'm going to focus from the global market. I only use one supplier in order to deliver fats and oils for all my company. That will depend on the strategy that we are going to have the selection of this. When we have started the selection, we are going to implement, we are going to govern that strategy, and also to monitor and to evaluate the different aspects that we can improve for the category. These guys, it is usually path that we use in order to create the category, the strategy for my category. You can imagine that in a company, we are going to have different categories for different strategies for different categories, and that all the strategies, we are going to have our strategy portfolio in order to have a centralized information about all the strategies that we are going to have for direct, for indirect, for fats and oils, commodities, for all the categories that we are managing as procurement. Okay, perfect. So, having said that, what's the challenge that the company usually has for the category strategy creation? you can imagine that if we create or if we let the different category managers to create the strategy by their own, we are going to lose information. We are not going to have a typical approach or a standardized approach in my company in order to create the categories, the strategies for the categories, sorry. If we are not having a common approach, or we are letting all the business units to create their own strategy, we are going to lose money. We are going to work as a silos. That is not it's not fair for the organization, for the global organization, to work individually, and also we are going to lose the execution of the different strategies. Okay, and you can imagine, without execution, even the best strategy has no value for the company. This is the reason that most of the companies are dedicated at this moment in procurement in order to at least implement as a global solution for the category strategy tool in order to centralize all the strategies that we are going to have for the different categories. Perfect. Okay, so on this case, we decide to have the support of AI in order to have expand the functionality for the category strategy. Yes, maybe we are going to start working with the implementation of the category strategy solution, but we are in 2025. We are going to take the advantage of AI in order to support this. Okay? I'm talking with different organizations, like Gartner, for example. We started realizing the different challenges of implementing AI, not only for procurement, but in general in an organization. And this graphic is very, very important to me, because analyzing the data that we have on this graphic, we can realize from 2023 to 2024, only 2% of the CIOs could deploy AI projects. And this is very interesting because it's a very, very low percentage of the CIOs that can deliver value by AI projects. Only 2% from 2023 for 2024. And guys, this is there is a reason for this low number. Okay? And the reason is because they are using the ground approach in order to implement AI. Okay, one approach that Gartner has for AI adoption is the approach that we are seeing this. It has 5 phases in order to implement it. The first one is to plan the implementation in order to define the AI use cases for the implementation. After, we are going to start the experimentation. After that, we are going to stabilize the use of AI. And later, we are going to expand the use of AI. If we can have all these 4 phases successfully for my implementation, yes, later we are going to be the leadership of the implementation of AI. But what's the issue with most of the CIOs? The issue is most of the company starts here on the stabilization. They don't plan about the use cases that we can have for the AI implementation. They don't care about experimentation. They go straight forward to the stabilization. And this is not a very good approach in order to have an implementation of AI. Okay? One is the extremely recommendation from my experience is when you are implementing AI for procurement, for manufacturing, for sales, etc., start planning your implementation. Start planning the use cases that you are going to have for a given process that you are implementing on AI. Okay? Having said that, in order to define, again, for my process, for my general process, in order to create a strategy category, according to the different to the approach for Gartner, I decide to use only 3 use cases in order to start the planning of the implementation of AI. Okay, I'm not going to use AI for all the category strategy process. I'm going to start using for only 3 use cases. The first one is for the internal analysis in order to have a cleanse of the data that I'm going to use. Also the market analysis, again, in order to clean the data that we are going to collect internally and also externally. And also the third one is to create an assistant for the value level ideation. That's it. It's the only 3 use cases that I'm going to start using AI for my category strategy process. Okay, I'm not going to use AI for the complete process and also for my portfolio strategy. No, I'm going to use for these use cases, and later in the upcoming years or months, I'm going to start expanding the use of AI. But this is the approach that I decide in order to use in order to start the implementation of the category management process. Okay. Having said that, I work with the vendor in order to implement the category strategy tool using AI, and this is the plan, the high level plan that we use in order to implement the category strategy. We have the kickoff, we have the procurement configuration. In the procurement configuration, we are going to use the category selection and also the category segmentation, the configuration of AI according to the use cases that we defined previously, also the governance, and also all the data, all the process that we are going to discuss later on the following slides. The change management, I let you know that this is very, very important to use change management because not all the people are related to AI, and also the go live. The average implementation for this, 20 weeks, depending of the vendor, depending of the size of your category strategy, the size of your procurement operation. You can consider 20 weeks for this implementation. Okay, so we define the use cases, we define how we are going to implement this. What's the expected business outcomes that we are going to plan before starting the implementation? This is all the expected outcome. Of course, for cost savings and cost avoidance, the expected we expect to increase the cost savings and also the cost avoidance for our categories, and also to take advantage to reduce the time taken to create the category strategy. We plan to reduce the time to create the category strategy using AI. If in the past we take maybe some weeks in order to create the category strategy, of course, using AI, the expectations that we have as business, as the business function, is to reduce the time using AI for the category strategy creation. Okay? Perfect. So we are ready to start the implementation of the category strategy. In the technical point of view, and also just to let you know that how we consider to have this implementation. You can imagine we are going to have our ERP when we are going to have all the operation for procurement and also for all the operation from all the business area in my company. Okay. So also I'm going to have my tool. I put some examples of the tool. I'm not recommended anything. It will depend on your operation and also your preference. If you can use different solutions, it's okay. But also we are going to have our productivity tool. Our productivity tool is the tool when we log all the information for productivity. cost savings and cost avoidance. You can imagine that at this moment, the ERP, the category strategy tool, and the productivity tool is a SaaS, so software as a service, and everything is on the cloud. So you should consider that for the category strategy implementation, we need to connect the different systems, the ERP, the productivity tool, and also the category strategy on the cloud. Okay, you need to consider that with your IT department because you need to realize how we are going to connect all these systems and also what will be the governance of the data that we are going to use on these systems. Okay, just an example. The data governance and collection. You need to work with your IT departments, with your project manager, with your data science, with your business analysts, and with your experts in data governance in order to define what data we are going to acquire for this process, for the category strategy, how we are going to ensure the integrity of that data, how we are going to ensure the security of that data, because you can imagine we are going to use data on these all three aspects, the ERP, the category strategy tool, and the productivity tool. Is usually you are going to have different vendors of this, the vendor for the ERP, the vendor for the category strategy, and also the vendor for the productivity tool. And you need to ensure all the security of the data and also the integrity of the data in all of these three systems. Okay, you need to work with your IT department and also with your vendors for every tool in order to define the governance on how you are going to acquire, extract, transform, load, and ensure the security of all the data that you are going to manage on these three tools. Okay? Also, you need to work with your IT department in order to assess, clean, and prepare the data. Because yes, you know how we are going to extract and to govern the data, but the data is clean, the data is accurate, how we are going to determine the quality of the data. For that, again, you are going to collaborate with your project managers, with your data science, with your business analysts, in order to ensure the completeness, consistent accuracy, and all the aspects of the data. In the real scenario, what data we are using? The spend classification, the classification with using purchase order or not purchase order, also the market prices, also the business unit spend that we are going to use in order to have the first step of the category strategy process, that is analyzing my own data. Okay, so in that case, how I'm going to ensure that data that we are going to use for the spend classification, for the market prices, and also for the views? You are going to consider a data lake for this. Why? Because, for example, let me return to this one. I'm going to use the spend classification, okay? And I know that at this moment in my ERP, the classification is not good because some users classify some spend in a category, but in the real life, it should be different category. So I cannot send that information directly to my category strategy tool because that classification is wrong. In that case, you can consider a data lake, working with your cloud connection in order to have a clean process to extract the information of the spend. We are going to allocate that information in a data lake. In a data lake, we are going to clean that information. And yes, with that clean information, we are going to send information to my category strategy tool and also to the productivity tool. You can consider that if the data is not consistent or is not accurate, you can consider using a data lake for this. Just an example. Okay, perfect. So other important aspect, is the model from GenAI. Here is a easy topic because that model will be defined by the category strategy tool. Okay, depending of your vendor is the model that we are going to use. But it's important that you, as a client for this model, you need to ensure how we are going to train this model. Because yes, using the information that we have on the ERP and also the information that we have in the productivity tool, we are going to use that data in order to train this model on the category strategy. And the training has some different purpose. The first one is to avoid hallucinations, okay? To avoid hallucinations that we are going to have here in the AI model that we are going to use for category strategy. Also the bias that we are going to avoid, how this model is going to avoid the bias. And also I need to train my users for an ethic use of AI, okay? All the use of AI should be considered only for the category strategy building model, but not for other unethical purposes, okay? So this training for this model here on this tool, it will take some time, depending of the cleansing of the data and also for the model that is using by your vendor. Usually you can consider 4 weeks of training for every 15 global categories that you are going to use. This is just an example. This is not a rule, but you can consider more or less 4 weeks for every 15 categories in order to have a very good training for the model. Okay? Cool, perfect. One important aspect for this kind of implementation is change management. I can let you know, for all the people in globally, Latam, Mexico, USA, Canada, Europe, India, East Asia, EMEA, etc., not all the people is going to be able, or it will be easy for them to use AI. Even it sounds very easy to use ChatGPT, to use Gemini, to use Microsoft Copilot, not all the people is able to use AI. So in that case, maybe you need to identify early enthusiastic people in order to share the enthusiasm with the rest of the teams in order to start using AI, because not all the people is going to be able. I can tell you that some people is still thinking that we are using AI to replace their job, and that's not true. We are using AI to expand the capabilities of the people, not to replace the people. So it's important to deliver that message to the team in a very good change management process. Very, very important, because we need to embrace the cultural adoption for the AI in order to use this capability for the category management creation. You will need to involve the more enthusiastic people. Maybe you can use the train the trainer solution in order to identify the most enthusiastic people, train that people in order to use AI, and also let the people to train the rest of the staff. Maybe in the different business unit, in the different regions that you are working. It's a solution that we adopt, and it's a solution that worked for the company. Also, it's a recommendation to test the model with a predefined prompts. I can tell you that in order to analyze the spend, we define 20 or 25 predefined prompts in order to test the model. And also we ask the participation for the people in order to define that list of the predefined prompts. It's good to do that because we are involving the people in order to have that list of the predefined prompts. And also other recommendations that I can give you for an AI implementation is to generate a prompt library. Because yes, most of the people is afraid of, okay, how I'm going to interact with the AI solution. Don't worry, we have a generate prompt library that you can use for the different use cases. It's a recommendation that I can give. Okay, so we have talked about all the business aspects, also all the technical aspects, and also for the implementation for a category strategy solution. Okay, so what was the expected ROI, or what was the expected outcomes, and how we compare the expected outcomes versus the actual outcomes? Maybe you remember that we focus in just a couple of outcomes. The first one was to to expand the cost savings and cost avoidance for a given category. Maybe talking about with the vendor, usually the expected ROI is to expand the savings between 4% and 8%. Okay? And in an actual ROI, in an actual business, in an actual data that we tracked when we implemented a category management tool, we discovered that we have 4.7, percent of increasing of savings in direct categories. That was very good because we were on the range that was the expected ROI. Okay, so we expected between 4 and 8%. We discovered that we have 4.7% for direct categories. That was very good. And the second expected outcome is to reduce the time creating the strategy for a given categories. The expected reduction time was 30%. We discovered that with a client, we have 50% of reducing. That was very good because we implemented the change management process. We trained all the people. We trained the model, of course. We defined the special use cases because we didn't start using AI for all the process to creating category strategy. We only focus and use 3 cases to analyze the external data, analyze the internal data, and also to start discovering the different levers that we can have for creating a category strategy. And focusing just in that, this is the actual benefits that we have after all of this implementation. Okay, so for this client, we finalized the implementation. We finalized the implementation of AI. What's next? Of course, to extend the solution for to all indirect categories according to the Gartner approach. In order, yes, we can extend the use in order to start stabilizing the tools, the use of AI for other categories. Also, you can maybe you have heard that most of the companies, the technology companies, are working for agentic AI. We discovered that there is a potential use case for agentic AI for category strategy. So we are going to start evaluating that, and also to extend the AI for other procurement process, source to pay, SRM, P2P, etc., etc., and to start using AI for other use cases. Okay, this is the recommendation that I have. Start small for the AI implementation. In my case, for procurement, we started small. We start having the support from the IT department, from the vendor, in order to start using AI. And with that, starting small, going in a reasonable velocity, yes, we discovered that we are having some business benefits of using AI. And that's the recommendation that I have, Aina, for today for the people. I don't know if there is any questions or there any.
Thank you so much, Mario. Yes, I have questions from the audience messaged me directly, so let me just pull them in. So the first one, so if an organization has a low AI maturity, what is the one thing they must get right before even considering the approach you just provided us, Mario?
Again, and also this is very common because even for working with global companies, it's not the same maturity in procurement that we have in Latam, in Mexico, in the USA, in Canada, in Europe. You need to consider that. Maybe you can start using a pilot, okay? Maybe with the most mature operation, in my case for procurement. You can start defining what's the business unit or what's the organization that is more mature in a given process to start a pilot of AI. Because yes, I totally agree with you. It's a different levels of maturity that you are going to face for any implementation. So in my recommendation, in my experience, not only for AI, for any given implementation, even it's just a process implementation, start with a pilot. Sometimes it's better to start with a more mature business unit, but also I let you know sometimes it's a good idea to start with a less mature business unit. It will depend on the implementation that you are going to perform. For AI, my recommendation is to start with a more mature organization.
Thank you, Mario. And we have 5 people on a panel. So guys, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and raise whatever thoughts you have.
Hi Mario, it's Shubham here. Can
Hi,
you hear me?
Shubham. I know you.
Hi. Yeah, yeah. So I had some question and which I also felt while I was in Bimbo. So how do we handle unstructured and incomplete? So there are a lot of unstructured and unclean data in our system. So how can we handle it through AI
Yes.
models?
Yeah, and actually that's a very good question, Shubham. And actually, it's a challenge that you are facing
Correct.
when we are implementing something like this. My recommendation is with the vendor that we are using for the category strategy, we
Mm-hmm.
can define how we are going to train the model. Okay, because
Okay.
yes, most of the vendors they are going to say yes, we can use unstructured data and we can use structured data in order to have the input for my training. In reality, my recommendation is to work with the structured data. Okay, so we need to work with the vendor in order to start defining how we are going to structure the different data that they need for the model training. And one recommendation that I have is to define a template in order to have the structure of the data. It will be depend of the ERP that we are using in the company. It will be depend how we are going to structure the data. But at least we should be capable in order to deliver all the data that we will need to for the training for the model training process. We need to send it a structure. So it will be it could take some time in order to for this implementation to structure the different data that we have. I don't know, for spend, for example, we will take some time in order to structure the data, to extract that information. But trust me, that all time that we are going to take to have a data structure in a template for the data that we are going to use is a good time investment, because once we ensure that the data is accurate and also the data is good, we are going to have a better training for the model. Because as usually we say, garbage in, garbage out. If we send wrong data for the spend, for the categories, for the productivity that we have, if we send wrong data to the model, we are going to have garbage out. So any time that we are going to invest cleaning the data is a very good investment time in order to ensure the output that we are going to receive for the AI model.
Yep. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, and thank you for being here. Shubham is
Yeah.
one of the co-workers that we have.
Oh, amazing. Thank you, Shubham. And
Thank
I see Valentin or Valentine, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, raising your hand. And I also see Karabi's question on chat. So let's go with Valentine and then move into Karabi.
Yep. I know you you shared about governance and the different categorizations. I was just wondering, one of the key aspects with all AI integration has been security or data breach. So how have you managed that, or how is that ensured? Because there is a big risk, and I think that's the main risk of data, especially with regulated companies like banks or public or government sectors that would love to use AI, but because of these genuine risks, it's hard to integrate. So how do you manage that challenge?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I manage that challenge in two different ways. The first one is the technical aspect. The second one is the governance aspect. For the technical aspect, you need to work closely with the IT department because it will depend of the policies that the IT department has in order to share some information, to classify the information that we are sharing, to classify the risk of the information that we are sharing. You need to work with the IT department in order to define the technical aspects about sharing that information. Maybe you are going to use some very basic functions like flat files, or you are going to use more robust technical solutions in order to deliver that information. It will depend on the IT department in order to let them define the security aspect of the security and technical aspect about that in order to share the information aligned with the IT department. That's about the technical aspect. For the governance aspect, I put some rules in or some clauses in the contract that I signed with my category management tool vendor. One clause that I add is they are only use my information to train my model. That means that the spend information that I have for my company, it's only used for my model. If they are going to deliver that SaaS, that software as a service for other clients, it's okay, but my information is only used for my model. So they needed to separate the model for only my instance for my company in order to have the training with my information for my people. Okay, so in that case, Valentine, my recommendation is to work very close with the IT department in order to define the technical aspects, but also to work internally in the governance in order to ensure that the different vendors are using only your information only for you. I don't know if we have other questions.
Yeah, I see some up from Valentine, and we have 3 more questions on the chat. So the first, actually 2 from Karabi. I don't know, Mario, if you want to take 2 at the same time.
Okay, let me stop sharing my screen in order to be able to see the chat.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So thank you very much. Okay, nice to see you. Shubham, nice to see you, Shubham. Hi, Mario. How do you manage data integrity? Okay, data integrity. It's a very good question. Very, very good question. Because yes, we discovered that, ERP is a world in any global company. We are using information from all different business units, and also I can ensure that the big companies, it will depend on the medium or small companies, but at least in global companies, the data integrity is not good. Okay, this is the reason that I mentioned that we use a data lake in order to have the clean process of the information. If we ensure the cleaning of the information, yes, we are working at the same time, or we will work at the same time to ensure the integrity of the information. So that's the reason that maybe you can consider with your IT department to use a data lake for that. Okay, there. Nice to see you. Hi, Mark. Great job. Very appreciate the It's critical piece of successful implementation. Only question, as if you can share the deck. Yes. I actually, I think I know yesterday you shared the deck on LinkedIn, right?
Yes, so I already shared the PDF on LinkedIn on my profile, but I will also be sending a recording to all of the participants, and I can also include the deck in the recording as well.
Thank you very much, Aina. And Karavi, will we require rules of onboarding new categories after we set up the process? That's a very good question, and the answer is yes. When we are implementing this for the starting categories that we are using, especially for the direct cost, yes, we are defining the different rules in order to add more categories for this. This is the reason that for the next steps, we are going to expand the use for indirect categories, because yes, when we implementing this category management solution, we define the different rules in order to add more categories for this process. And maybe you can consider talking about procurement, that you are going to have different rules for direct categories and also for indirect categories, because depending on your spend, you are going to manage the categories different. So maybe you can consider, it's not a rule, but you can consider that yes, where you are going to define the rules, but even that, you can consider that you are going to have different rules for direct and also different rules for indirect categories.
Thank you, Mario. And we have one more question. So this person is not in the panel, but they are messaging me directly. Mario, you said some elements failed. So can you name one decision which didn't go as planned? And what would you do differently now after you learned from the experience?
That's a very good question, and it's related to the previous one, because yes, when we started implementing this for a given company, we discovered that it was easier for us to start with the direct categories. Why? Because all the information about the information that we had in the ERP for indirect cost, it was the integrity and the accuracy was different for direct cost. It was a lesson learned that we discovered. At the beginning of the process, we defined that we will use our solution for direct and indirect cost, but in reality, we discovered that it was not possible. This is the reason that we started with the direct cost, commodities, ingredients, packaging, etc., in order to start with that categories. Because for indirect categories, we discovered that we needed more time in order to ensure the accuracy of the data, and that's one lesson learned that we discovered. We started working with the direct categories, and once we discovered the benefits of using AI, we will expand the use for indirect categories.
Thank you, Mario. So I don't see any hands raised. I don't see any comments on the chat. And we are 2 minutes left for this session, so I think we can wrap it up. Again, Mario, thank you very much for joining and for sharing this experience. I will definitely review this webinar again. That's how many useful nuggets I've got, and definitely something to think about to implement in my organization. And I hope the audience learned something as well, and also hope we can collaborate in future again. And on the VHL side, I'm gonna host I think at least 7 more webinars by the end of summer on different AI subjects for different organizations and fields. So guys, I hope you will be joining me there. So if you want to know our schedule, feel free to review my site viagelnow.com or just follow me on LinkedIn. And Mario, do you have your final words?
No, just thank you, Aina, for this opportunity. It's very good to connect with the rest of the audience, and just to thank you the opportunity for this.
Thank you, guys. Hey, see you next time. Take care now.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.